Hi, I'm Dave Long, animator. I make these DVD menus for the MST3K box sets, and I wanted to introduce you to Steve Vance, the guy who makes these posters for the box sets. I convinced the people at Shout to let me meet him because I've been a big fan for a long time, and I wanted to understand more about his process. So I invaded his studios, and we had this conversation. And I hope you enjoy it.
So this is kind of what I start with when I'm watching the films. I'll just take some notes and try to think about elements that could work as covers, and I do these really roughly. And the main thing for me is I need to remind myself what that little thing means. So I label the blobs and I remind myself that Servo is going to have a beard here. And Crow is stuck in the rock.
These look bizarrely similar to when I do sketches, kind of a rough layout. And
Yeah.
That's the
It's all just
the
about
idea.
getting the idea down at this point so that maybe I won't forget it. Here's Puma Man or Puma Man.
Ooh, poor man.
Oh, Fat Pumaman.
I watch all of them and then I start working on layout so that I can kind of avoid situations where I might feel there's too much similarity between two covers. I've made myself these little format things that so that I sketch them up a little tighter in the actual proportions of the boxes and remind myself to leave room for the type. I put the Mystery Science Theater 3000 Presents up at the top just to try to make it a little more movie posterish, and now that's just what we do.
That filtered over into the menus at some point. I didn't do that early on, and Jordan at Shout said, we need to put this MST3K Presents at the top of the menu.
That's hilarious.
At first I was like, really? Because I like that title. But then it really is important to delineate that this is the riff version,
And then from there I just make larger printouts of these and then take a piece of tracing paper and go over them and tighten them up. So this is the tighter pencil, and that's what I present. And like in this case, I changed my mind about what the little blurb would say, so I wrote a different one. And so I'll at least go back through and go, searching for some moment of potentially interesting conflict
Right.
in a movie that's often rather free of such things. And then I also do on the back covers of each of the packages, those little blurbs that say, see whatever. And so I need to go back through one more time and pick the moments that I'm going to use for those and write little captions. On the first set, I just threw those in,
Oh, neat.
thinking, hey, I think this would be cool. Because that's another classic little element from those old movie posters where they'd have little inset boxes, little scenes from hyping little moments from the film. And so I thought, well, those are fun.
Yeah.
So it goes basically from like this to this to that. And then put that down onto my light table with a sheet of drawing Bristol on top of it and redraw the whole thing. And
So you've drawn it 4 times by the time you.
yeah, it's sort of like, watch the movie multiple times, draw the
Right.
picture multiple times. There should be a shortcut for this, but I don't know what it is. I think probably like most people who do vaguely the sort of stuff that we do. I mean, I don't remember not drawing. I was always drawing, and then a friend of my older brother's who had outgrown comic books gave me a stack of his comics. It was like, man, this is what I've been drawing. Let's see, I started on the 20th anniversary, and we just recently did the 25th anniversary. I wouldn't have realized that it had been 5 years until I suddenly was like,
Until you saw
hey,
that.
now we're doing the 25th. So, I had just started working for Shout and had done a couple other packages for them, and one of them was for Firesign Theater.
Yes.
And they liked the style of that and thought it might be kind of an appropriate direction for Mystery Science Theater. And, you know, theater, it's not a big leap. Mystery Science, just, it's its own thing, and it's hilarious and ingenious and all that. So I was really delighted.
Do you think of it as retro or
Yeah, definitely. You know, maybe the golden rule of these movies was that the poster had to be way more exciting than the actual movie was. That's just kind of, I mean, that's part of the basic DNA of these kinds of movies. It makes sense to me to pitch it in a deadpan way, in the mode of the classic B-movie posters, with hyped up melodrama, and try to get the lighting a little more interesting than maybe it probably was in the movie itself, and that sort of thing. The show does an impeccable job of skewering the movies, so, you know, I don't need to pile on.
Right.
Everybody who
Interesting.
is getting these sets understands what it is they're getting. There's no need for me to be more of the same of that. I'm trying to just put a little different spin on it in a way. I obviously take liberties with their real anatomy because, you know, Servo's arms aren't long enough to be really useful
right.
for so many
yeah.
things.
Servo moves his hands way too well in my menus.
Yeah.
All right, my hands suck, okay?
So in the host segments, they do the bots often as characters from the movie or what have you, and they'll be whoever they need to be.
Yeah, that
So-
we're talking about. That's the blueprint, kind of.
Yeah.
The rules sort of are set by the show and the way it treats it,
Right.
and then we're sort of working in that sandbox. It feels like in a fun sandbox.
Yeah, in our own little corners of that. Yeah.
Do you ever think about breaking the rules, or do it and then later realize you've broken the rules?
I'm tempted at times, I guess, just because, you know, we have done quite a few of these, but I've always just reeled myself back in because I just think it's,
You don't want it to break. If it bends, it's funny, right? Maybe that's what it is.
right, because you're working within the whole show,
Yeah.
whereas I'm working basically inside the movie screen that they're watching, and then just applying the bots to that. In the composition, I wanted Gorgo behind the type and the bots in front. So, you know, it's like this has to be a separate element. I draw that separately, draw the type separately. And I took a frame grab from the movie for this so that I could try to be semi-accurate about what this mantis looked like. Put my piece of
Oh, beautiful.
art paper
I love that
on top, and I draw it all with a
Those
blue pencil,
scallops.
which you probably can't even see, because I can drop that out when I scan it. And then I just take a brush and ink and just go at it.
Oh, you use a brush.
Yeah, straight lines, pen, but most of this stuff is brush. This is kind of the classic comic book approach.
It is kind of a luxury to do the old way.
Yeah, exactly. I just scanned this and color in the computer. And I haven't seen the Mystery Science version of Untamed Youth. I mean, I'm working on the package
The
now,
riff
but
version.
I've watched only the straight
The
version.
original movie.
Yeah.
You have got to be kidding me!
The riffing almost across the board on these movies is the thing that makes it palatable
Well,
as a viewer
yeah,
for me.
absolutely.
So you're putting yourself through a kind of
Yeah,
torture that
well.
I don't think I could handle.
Everybody has their own. Everybody who sees the show has their own take on it. You know, they may agree largely, but you know, they're all going to have a little different angle on it. And I just, you know, I have mine, and I've been encouraged to embrace it, you know, by the folks at Shout.